Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, ladies and gentlemen. In today's short video clip, I am going to tell you something about the foreign policy of Pakistan. First of all, definition of foreign policy. Actually, the term foreign policy is self-explanatory. It is a policy of the state which it adopts with foreign countries. In other words, the strategies, tactics, and process by which a nation interacts with other nations in order to protect its own interest is called as foreign policy. What is permanent in foreign policy? We have a famous saying by Lord Palmerston, who remained British Foreign Secretary for 3 times. That is 1830 to 1834, and then 1835 to 1841, and finally from 1846 to 1851. These are the years which were very important in the foreign policy making of the Great Britain. So Lord Palmerston says that in the international relations, there is no permanent allies or enemies. The only thing permanent is national interest. So actually, foreign policy is not a static subject or discipline. It keeps on changing, sometimes in years, while sometimes in months, weeks, but I would say that it also changes in days. When we talk about the foreign policy, the first and foremost thing which comes into mind is the objectives of foreign policy. Every nation sets forth some objectives while interacting with other nations of the world. Before giving you the objectives of Pakistan's foreign policy, here is an important thing to be highlighted. If there is an objective, then there should be a SMART objective. SMART is an abbreviation, not a word. It is the combination of 5 letters S, M, A, R, T. That if you design an objective for any purpose, and especially for foreign policy, then it should be SMART. S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, realistic, T, timely. So if you want to achieve an objective, it should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. If these things are missing, it means that your objective is hard to be achieved. Now let's see what are the objectives of the Pakistan's foreign policy. The first objective, or the primary objectives of Pakistan foreign policy, is to safeguard national security, or territorial integrity, or in other words, political sovereignty of the country. This is very important, that if you want to have relations with another country, the first thing which you keep in mind is to protect and safeguard your national security. The second objective is relation with Muslim Ummah. After all, we are a Muslim state. More than 95% people are Muslims, so definitely when you are going to establish relations with other countries, Muslim Ummah should come first. We have 57 Muslim states all over the world. It's not a small number. Most of them have rich resources, but unfortunately, since they have not evolved any strategy, financial strategy, trade strategy, and Muslim brotherhood strategy, so unfortunately they are not playing an important role. Interestingly, Pakistan has given constitutional protection to its relation with the Muslim countries. Article 40 in Pakistan's constitution calls for fraternal relationship with Muslim countries. So this is a constitutional obligation for Pakistan, not only an objective. The third objective is Pakistan's good relations with neighbors. We are surrounded by India to the east, Iran to the west, Afghanistan to the northwest, and China to the northeast. So we have no other option but to establish good relations with these neighbors. It is a common saying that you can change everything, but you cannot change your neighbor. So even if we have not so good relations with some of our neighbors, we try our best to resolve outstanding issues with our neighbors. So this is a very important objective. The fourth objective is relations with big powers. Powers who are economic giants, powers who have military strength, powers who have a say in the international politics. So unless and until you enjoy good relations with big powers, you cannot pursue the objectives of your foreign policy. Number 5, to protect national interest. As I just mentioned, that this is something which is cardinal and important to foreign policy. And what is in your national interest? Your national interest includes your economic prosperity, your safeguarding your security, and the interest of Pakistani diaspora all over the world. So protecting of national interest, although it's an overarching objective, but this is one of the objectives fixed for Pakistan's foreign policy. The sixth one is to play an effective role in the international affairs, including the role in the United Nations. Fortunately, Pakistan is not a small state. It is a state of almost 1 million square kilometers, and it is a state of 230 million people. So nobody can ignore Pakistan. Therefore, Pakistan has to play an important role. Pakistan has played this role effectively and especially in the United Nations. Pakistan has been chairman of important committees constituted by the UN. Pakistan has been member of the Security Council non-permanent category of members. Pakistan has been the president of the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly. And Pakistan has been playing an effective role in the UN peacekeeping missions. So fortunately, these objectives we have already attained, but we should try our best to improve our services in this regard. The last with me is to improve the image of Pakistan. Unfortunately, nowadays we have to work hard for improving and for softening the image of Pakistan, which has been tarnished by some of our enemies and some of our friends even. So we must try to improve, to soften and to cleanse the image of Pakistan in the international politics. These are objectives. I mean, objectives are always lofty and very high in stature. But then comes another important thing in foreign policy, and those are called as determinants. Objective is your desire, but determinant is something which shapes up the pace of your foreign policy. We have some determinants in Pakistan's foreign policy. The first one is ideology. Our foreign policy will definitely, if you wish or you don't wish, your foreign policy will be definitely affected by the Muslim and Islamic ideology. You cannot ignore the Palestinians. You cannot ignore the Kashmiris. You cannot ignore a threat to the security of Saudi Arabia, which is housing the sacred places of Islam. So, your foreign policy will be directly affected by ideology. The second thing is geography. And geography is something which is also, in other words, it is called as geopolitical and geo-economic setting of your country. Pakistan occupies a very strategic and important geographical location. It connects one continent with the other one. It has a direct connection with the Middle East. It has, through sea routes, it has a connection with the Central Asia via Afghanistan. It has a direct border of more than 1,000 kilometers with India. It has a border of more than 700 kilometers with China and of the same length with Iran. And then you have the longest border with Afghanistan, which is a gateway to Central Asia. So geography is very important, and we are lucky enough to have this type of geography. The third thing is security. It's a determinant which sometimes changes the nature of your friends. A person, a country which helps you to safeguard your security becomes your friend. And if that country changes its mind and it threatens your security, that becomes your enemy. So this is such a sensitive determinant of foreign policy. Then your economy. Unfortunately, we have been very weak in the field of economy. So whosoever gives us aid, whosoever finances in Pakistan and finances the projects in Pakistan becomes our friend, and he finds an important place in the foreign policy strategy. Then your history is also a determinant. I mean, we have inherited unfriendly attitude from India, which still continues, unfortunately. So this is a history. You become a captive to your history. Sometimes this history has good memories, sometimes this has bad memories. The other determinant is domestic situation. Please note that if you are domestically weak, if you have domestically disorder, if you have domestically no rule of law, if you have domestically no democracy, if you have domestically no good governance, you don't have to enjoy a respectable place in the community of nation. So domestic situation is also an important determinant. And the final one with me is regional dynamics. Sometimes your region also changes the shape of your foreign policy. Either your region provides you good opportunities or your region provides you some bad opportunities which affects your foreign policy adversely. Now, with these important thing about foreign policy, the final thing which I would like to tell you is a review of our foreign policy. Have we achieved all the objectives of our foreign policy? I mean, the answer is yes and no. Yes means we have achieved some of them. No, we have to achieve some of them which have not been achieved. Then the determinants, are we ready to act according to the determinants which I just mentioned here? Definitely, in some of the cases we have success, in some of the cases we have failures. If Pakistan wants to become an actor in the international politics, it has to rethink and reshape its foreign policy periodically. Thank you so much.